JoeJustice, a former Tesla employee, shares a new agile that has replaced all other agile inside the Musk companies. You will learn how Musk companies use their own developed AI system to group work and add automation as they develop new engineering. As a result, in SpaceX, he has made more than 1,000 changes in hardware and software to the largest rocket on the earth in 69 days. We all know the story, ladies and gentlemen. So it will be a great honor and excitement for me to present you, Joe, talking about the agile software and hardware at Tesla and SpaceX. Handing over to you, Joe.
It is my honor and privilege to be here. Now, I just followed Silvana Wasitova, which was amazing. And I just got a message from Juana Junco, which is fantastic. And I see many other people I deeply respect attending. Thank you very much. I'm JoeJustice. I was a Tesla employee and I visited SpaceX and collaborated with SpaceX. And I'd like to share what I understand of the process that is in use now at SpaceX and Tesla. Let's check if my screen share does work. Do you see a human shaking hands with an AI, with a robot? Do you see hashtag MobAI?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. This is one of the 12 steps of JoeDX. I really want to call it the Musk method. It's what I understand, what I was able to learn working in Tesla as a Tesla employee. And when I did set up, found, and operate the Agile program in Tesla under Elon Musk. But I don't think I understood everything. So I don't think anyone except Elon gets to call something the Musk model, even though I really want to. So I call it Joe because it's limited by what I understood. Even if I had a good point of view, and even if I created a lot of things about Agile in Tesla, still I want to limit it and say this is what I was able to understand. And DX for digitalization and automation. I'll scroll to the right here. The reason I really wanted to accept the kind invitation to speak with this group today is because of a recent news item. Starship is the largest rocket ever made by humans, made by SpaceX. And Elon Musk and then many SpaceX employees revealed they'd made 1,000 changes in hardware and more in software in 69 days. Companies all around the world say we can't release software changes in less than a year. We definitely couldn't do hardware changes in less than a year. It's typically 2.5 years or 5 years or 7 years for hardware changes. Agile doesn't fit for us. Fast pace of innovation doesn't fit for us. And then here's the fastest growing aerospace company ever, SpaceX, making 69 changes in hardware and even more in software. Sorry, 1,000 changes in hardware and even more in software in 69 days. They show not only is it possible, it's also possible in hardware and software, and it's possible in something that requires government approvals. Rockets require FAA in the United States, flight approval. It's a flight article, and it goes through a series of government inspections and approvals. And even with that overhead, SpaceX is achieving this pace of innovation that is unheard of, that many app companies with just software and no government regulation are having difficulty achieving. Even more interesting, and why I really wanted to talk at an Agile conference, is because the Senior Director of Application Software at SpaceX, Ted Malaska, said, we don't have any Agile. This is a job posting from SpaceX. We are looking for outstanding engineers to work in a game-changing environment. No project managers, no Agile, no architects, no designer, and we are in the office every day. But you get to change the world and work on rockets. And the hiring locations at the time are California, Texas, and Florida. But SpaceX becomes more and more global, and all the Musk companies together are fully global. So there's many opportunities to work through in this method in one of the Musk companies almost anywhere in the world. And these job postings are open. So if this is interesting to you, they're continually hiring. Now, Tesla and SpaceX get more than 1,000 job applicants for every open position. So I was very lucky to get hired at Tesla. And even more than that, I was told I was the best interview Tesla had ever had. I made a YouTube video about that. If you're curious how to have the best interview ever at Tesla, that's on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/u, I think, and then /JoeJustice. And I think I'm JoeJustice0. A musician got JoeJustice before me. It gets even more interesting. The lady who wrote the paper that became Scaled Agile Framework, Marit Lanti, she's now a SAFE fellow and recognized as the creator of what became SAFE. Dean Leffingwell then leased it and commercialized it and created the Scaled Agile Framework from Marit Lanti's papers. And she's a good friend of mine based in Helsinki, Finland. She wrote me and said, Musk is replacing middle management with AI, and tagged me on LinkedIn. And the news article, Mark Zuckerberg credits Elon Musk with kicking off the tech trend of firing middle managers when other CEOs were a little shy. And I replied back, I know. I couldn't find any middle managers when I worked in Tesla. It was just engineers doing the work, about 120,000 of us. And operating the Agile program at Tesla was pretty weird when there was no Agile and no middle managers. We didn't have any release train meetings. We had no release trains. We had no big room planning. We had no sprints. We had no backlog. We didn't have any of what most people would consider Agile. And yet it was the fastest pace of innovation I've ever seen anywhere. So what are they doing? I want to try to be really clear right now. Hashtag MobAI. What is the composition of a fast team? How do they improve their skills? Let's take a look. As far as I can tell, this has replaced everything I thought I knew about Agile. And here's what it looks like. At Tesla, all work, at least in 2020 when I was an employee, all work was MobAI. It was all group work assisted by artificial intelligence tools. MobAI works well with any composition of skill. All new people are highly creative. We would mob on emails, contracts, programming, computer-aided design, even physical work like assembling robots or building cars. All work was MobAI. There is a related type of work called ensemble work, more generally group work without roles or a timer. We also did that. When you're mobbing on physical work, you have to be in the office. And in Tesla and SpaceX and all Musk companies, you don't do just one thing. You help with whatever needs help. If a truck needs to be unloaded, everyone helps unload the truck, even if you were a software developer. That is why Musk has banned remote work. I think remote work actually works very well if you're only making a virtual product like software. I actually recommend remote work if your product is also virtual. But in the Musk companies, they're making rockets and cars and Neuralink and tunneling machines. And even if you're writing software, you're expected to help in other areas. And this is what a mob looks like. This is a mob about to start. They're in Deutschland, they're in Germany, they're in Giga Brandenburg, Giga Berlin. And you have a group assisted by AI tools. The AI tools allow this group to work with parts they've never seen before. The Musk companies famously release new hardware parts into production multiple times a day that people in other mobs have never encountered before. The AI tools help them see how to work with parts that they've never encountered. Here is a group of mobs. These are from Neuralink, making embedded electronic devices that go in the human brain, another Musk company. If mobs share an interface, if they connect together, they choose to sit within 3 meters of each other. Again, if your product is fully virtual, you can do this with breakout rooms, and people can opt to join another breakout room to connect with each other or join each other's mobs. If you're working on a physical part like Neuralink, you have to be physically there to physically do it. And the mobs choose to physically sit within 3 meters of each other. Each mob owns its own module, and they own their own testing of that module, their own manufacturing of that module, their design and deployment. The same people who design build it. Now, how do you get so skilled? What kind of superhumans can design, build, test, and deploy the most compact embedded electronics ever, which is Neuralink? MobAI grows cross-functional skills. Actually, very normal people can do it, which is why I'm really excited to try to be explicit about how it works. Mobs start with over 100,000 people at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. every day in Tesla, at least in 2020. Then people self-organize into groups of about 50. They organize around goals or objectives for the day that are set at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. and continually throughout the day as needed. Then those groups of about 50 split until they reach the ideal size of approximately 3 to 5. Other companies in Silicon Valley, like Hunter, where Mob was named, Woody Zuhl, and Austin Chadwick and Chris Lucian, many others. I wish I could name them all right off the top of my head, but those are the few I've actually mobbed with, Austin Chadwick and Chris Lucian and Willem. Many companies still do some Agile events. I couldn't find any Agile events anywhere in any of the Musk companies at all. No daily stand-up, no sprint planning, not even retrospective. But many companies like Hunter do, and they do those events in Mob. If they've mobbed more than an hour a day, they don't do any daily stand-up meeting. It's not needed anymore. Mob works well for any composition of skill. All new people are highly creative, and the AIs help get them started by prompting the humans. Mob is ideal for 3 to 5 people. It's a really tiny picture, but this is a picture from Hunter that named the word mob. And this mob here, if you can see it all, they're doing a retrospective. So you can do retrospectives in mobs. Before I show you how to do it, let's show the results. Here is the heat pump of the Tesla Model S and X. It has this number of parts. Many of them are bought by vendors. Many of them are made in-house. Many of them have embedded software. A single mob of people worked on it together and reduced the part count and cost. And they made a heat pump system. This is so much smaller, it made a lot more room under the hood of all the cars, where then they could grow other modules, like the full self-driving computer could take up more room. And the system, as of the beginning of this year, is this small. It's like a toy now. It costs literally pennies, literally rupees, literally yen to make. It's just a little bit of melted plastic and a few other materials, a tiny bit of embedded software that's highly optimized. And this has replaced all of this previous system. And how it works is these mobs start by making a physical prototype. That's unusual. Most companies are starting by making 3D drawings. In the Musk companies, you start by whittling plastic with knives, by melting plastic and folding thin metal with your hands. As you're making a physical prototype, one of the other people in your mob, in your group, is automating those assembly steps. So if you're the driver, you are physically trying to make this prototype with your hands. Someone else is programming robots to try to do what you're doing with your hands as you're doing it. Not a year later after the design is optimized, right then at the same time. So they continually reprogram the robots as the design changes. That gets them great skill at programming robots because they never stop doing it. Someone else in the mob is making a simulation. And the result is you have fully automated production and test by the time the design is done. These teams do this every day for 12-hour shifts, typically 3 to 5 people, and they rotate through all the roles. So you don't have just one person that does automation and just one person that does simulation and just one person who does this craft work with their hands. Everyone rotates, everyone does it. If you've done that for 30 days, you become radically cross-skilled. You can automate, build, and simulate, and multiple times a day, you release new designs into production. And the result is every day, the cost in pennies of each part drops. This is the cost, weight, and power consumption of the center display of a Tesla car, the screen. And Tesla makes their own. The cost drops by pennies, rupees, and yen every day. The weight drops by grams every day. The power consumption drops by milliwatts every day because the hardware and software changes several times every day. That in aggregate has made the total cost of an entire car drop by 30% in 4 years, whereas most companies are trying to just prevent the cost from growing. It's reflected in the customer experience. The charge time has dropped 30% over 5 years. And because automation is added by the mobs every day and not as an after step, as the number of cars produced increases, in this case, it's Shanghai and Fremont, California. Fremont's where I worked most of the time. The labor hours to make a vehicle drops because automation increases daily. If you could do this mob, if that was your capability, if you had MobAI capability, you'd probably use it for everything, right? You'd use it with suppliers, you'd use it for localization, engineering changes, product improvements, general overhead efficiency and productivity, and volume ramp. And that's exactly what Tesla does. So what is Mob and how do we do it? Mob and MobAI is a way of having everyone on a team work on the same thing at the same time on the same tool. You may have heard of mob programming. Teams practice it in many situations, including definition creation, software development, hardware manufacturing. Expected benefits. It can reduce the problems that teams have. Communication problems such as waiting for answers to questions, time spent exchanging email conversations, and potential misunderstandings from communication via documents. It shares knowledge with the team and develops cross-functional teams. You don't have to hire super developers. You can start with people of any skill and they become cross-functional by doing MobAI. You learn knowledge and skills from each other. Senior members may have technical skills and junior members may have creative skills. That increases speed. Context switching project work among team members can lead to a loss of time and focus. Mobs allow work to progress because even if one team member is asked to switch contexts, the rest of the team can continue. And it provides rapid feedback. There's always discussion and quick feedback from the members of the mob, and there's no need for product reviews. Everyone's reviewing the product as it's designed, built, tested, and automated, hardware or software. I've posted a video on my YouTube channel with Japanese subtitles. This was originally posted by Woody Zuhl, and it's also available on the Mob Mentality channel. If you take a screen capture, you can get the URL, and I'll try to remember to put it in the chat at the end of the talk. If you would like to use Mob in your company, you might need to present evidence that Mob is more efficient than people working alone. So I've posted evidence here from Silicon Valley in the United States and Zozo and Yahoo Japan. A past student of mine shared this information. I've been working on mobs for 4 hours a day and I can finish my work faster. I can see the benefits, especially in code reviews. Advantages. The members are there and they can see it on the spot. There's no need to have another meeting. It costs more to verbalize and communicate later. Some people are not good at verbalizing, so it is quicker to review and correct on the spot. Some skills and knowledge are shared, so work can continue even if a member is absent. There's no need to wait. I'd like you to try Mob. I don't have a way to interact with you during this keynote except during the Q&A at the end, but I'd encourage you to actually do this today after the session. Engineering skill is not required for MobAI. The other team members and AI tools help you. Start by writing a text. In Mob, there's only one driver at a time. They're the only person who uses the tool. If you're typing, like doing 3D CAD or working with a supplier or designing a part or writing software, you'd be typing on a computer, whatever the tool is. The other members give instructions if you need them, or cheer for you, or ask AIs for assistance. Everyone takes turns playing driver. No one only watches. The team chooses the length of the duration. They don't want to rotate drivers until the current driver has experienced success, something that felt correct and good and added value, because that builds their confidence. Most teams choose 7-minute rotations. Hunter uses 7-minute rotations. They're the company who named Mob, and it's adjusted as needed by the members of each mob. I will recommend starting with 3-minute rotations to make your first mob simple. Teams share the same tool. Many companies use remote desktop, virtual desktop software, or Miro. At Tesla, they're starting to use virtualized manufacturing with the Tesla bot. But still you're required to be in the facilities if you're programming the Tesla bots, at least as of now. Advanced Mob is a game. It's a role-playing game with 3 levels of roles. Actually, Willem recently added a 4th level, the traffic cop, and it's awesome. But For most people, it's 3 levels of roles. The goal is for all members to speak an equal amount. For your first mob, if you are in the MobAI role, please politely offer tips that support the direction of the navigator. Please perform quality check and quietly pair with other MobAI members to research with AI tools on your phone or in another browser. And here is specifically what you do. In your first 10 hours of mob, please stay in level 1 is my recommendation. One person at a time is the driver. Ask clarifying questions about what to do. Do something even if you disagree with it. Use new tool shortcuts. Learn something new about the tools. Ignore direct instructions from someone who isn't the navigator. If you're the navigator, ask everyone for ideas. Filter the ideas, then tell the driver exactly what to do. Later, try telling the driver only your high-level intent and have the driver implement the details. Create a failing test, then work together to pass the test. Refactor or edit what was already written. If you're not currently the driver or the navigator, you are the MobAI, and there can be 1, 2, or 3 MobAIs. Your first job is to increase psychological safety. Yield to the less privileged voice. Use AI tools to contribute an idea. Ask AI and the humans around you questions and listen with excitement. Ideally, your company has your own AI that knows your context, and your work with it trains it to better know your context. If you don't, use publicly available AI tools like Google's Bard or ChatGPT from OpenAI. As an example, I asked ChatGPT and Google Bard, why should we use hashtag JoeDX everywhere in the company? And they both gave great answers. I'll read one. JoeDX is an AI-powered platform designed to enhance various aspects of a company's operations. Here are a few reasons why using JoeDX everywhere in the company can be beneficial, and then they're listed. Google Bard also gave a great answer. The mobber goes up in levels. This is something Hunter developed and Willem codified. The goal, as I understand it from working in Tesla, is to get everyone to auto machinist, where you're actively using AI tools to add automation as new development is being made. So as a new design of a center display is being made, as the heat pump is being manufactured, you are automating the design, test, validation, deployment, and manufacturing of the heat pump, and even automating parts of the maintenance. That is the goal, to get to level 3. After 10 hours of mob, my recommendation is to invite non-technical subject matter experts, like some companies still have product owners or project managers or chief engineers that might not be hands-on. Invite them to join the mob. After 100 hours of mobbing, have everyone start rotating through the level 3 roles, the advanced roles, to start building skills as an auto machinist, a nose to recognize problems and good things, and an archivist. These roles were defined by Willem, and you can see more from Mob on the Mob Mentality podcast, for example. Frequently asked questions. How detailed should our instructions be from the navigator to the driver? It depends on the level of the driver. If the navigator is more skilled at what we're doing now, then provide detailed instruction. If the navigator is junior at the skill that's happening now compared to the driver, then give the high-level goal and check the high-level goal, check the business intention, and let the senior mentor you as they drive. There are often taste gaps in how to solve a problem. Those close over time as we experience success with more ways of working. I'll say it again, at Tesla, all work was mob. Yes, maybe one person could quickly respond to a supplier email, but then only that one person would have the information and only that one person would have the experience. Every piece of work I experienced in Tesla is group work. I'll close with a case study. I would like to introduce mob, but when I make a proposal, they say, wouldn't it be better to have one person perform multiple tasks in parallel than multiple people performing one task? How could I convince them? My advice, please see the reference URLs from Silicon Valley and Zozo, Japan. It is a fact that many companies do use mobbing. Please try mobbing for an hour a day and test it out. Also ask everyone to work alone for an hour each day. Measure the total progress and count the defects. Then also measure the time to fix the defects. the mob total progress, including defect fix time, will be much, much faster. Here are some examples of companies that have actually implemented mobs. Fujitsu, when they looked at the work speeds of the mob team and the non-mob team, at first glance, the mob team appeared to be slower. However, the non-mob team found defects in the review and rework occurred. The mob team was able to pass the final review easily because they were mobbed already and reviewed already. And the final result was the mob team was by far the fastest. So it might be a good idea to try this in parallel as a test. Another Japanese company, Saibotsu, the reason why they've been doing mobs for over 5 years is not only because it is faster, but because the developers choose to do mobs on their own because it is fun. If you have Agile coaches, if you have Scrum Masters, if you have Agile champions, you shouldn't force people to do mobs. So suggest they start by doing it for an hour a day. The goal is to mob all work, all day, once the developers are fit and healthy enough for that level of energy. And can I have a time check? Am I at time or over time?
We do have 3 more minutes left, and it's a lot interesting, disruptive, and a lot to process. I was just kind of asking if we have time to take questions. I'm sure all of us.
I will close for questions. I will excitedly close by saying that Toyota is now using MobAI. I'm very glad that Toyota was allowed me to share that I've been training in Toyota City, just outside Nagoya, their world headquarters, and introduced JoeDX inside Toyota, and they are doing MobAI and powertrain development. I'm thrilled to be allowed to say that. Many other companies are as well. You might have seen on LinkedIn my work with Mercedes-Benz or Volkswagen or Airbus or Ariane Group. And to be clear, these methods aren't being used just in new product design. They're being used in operations. They're being used in supply chain. They're being used in every aspect of the company, including budgeting. Maybe I'll see you in our JoeDX class where you will do MobAI with me if you'd like. And this is one of the 12 parts of JoeDX, all of which I think might be helpful and equally surprising and maybe good. So maybe see you in JoeDX. I hope we have time for a question, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe. And this is Disruption X is how I like to visualize it. And with that, I'll open up the floor. I could see Murali has posted a question. Murali, do you want to just unmute and ask the question?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe. Wonderful session. I loved it. I just want to understand how did they manage when during the pandemic, when people were had to be at home? How did they manage to be in the office, on the floor, helping each other, mobbing?
So I was working in Tesla during the COVID restrictions in 2020, and that was early enough where we didn't really know what COVID was. We didn't quite understand it at that time. So we were dressed almost like spacesuits in the factory, and it was really hot. We had a lot of cooling equipment, but that was very loud, and it made it difficult to hear each other. We absolutely did our best, but we were dressed in basically hazardous containment and protection suits to do mob, and we would clean that gear, or when we had to, get new gear every day, so that we could keep the operations running during COVID.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I think we have time to take one more question. Anyone? I don't see any hand raises. Everybody's still processing.
Hi,
I think
can I?
continue there.
Yeah. Hi, Joe. Thanks for this disruptive session. Just one question. In this mob, see, I can understand that the people were exchanging roles, right? Maybe one was a developer, then the other moment he was a designer, and then then the third way he might be an instructional, Scrum Master, like that. So it might include some learning curve in the initial phases, because, for example, not every Scrum Master was a developer, right? And not every, I would say, project manager as well was a backend developer or front-end So there might be a learning curve involved. What are your views about that?
Yeah, there absolutely is. In my experience, it seems to take at least 18 minutes for people to start being productive. I say that with a straight face because it's honest. Really, it's about that fast because the AI writes most of the code for you. What you're doing more is engineering good prompts. And by code, I also mean engineering, like computational fluid dynamics, finite element analysis, supply chain decisions. Really, AIs are doing the work. What the humans are doing is guiding towards the mission of the company. In the Musk company's case, it's not even profit. It's about accelerating the transition to sustainable energy. So you're keeping that in mind and you're being creative. And like you're not writing much Python. You're not writing much embedded C. I mean, some, but as long as one person in the group can do it, they can give detailed instructions. And after 30 days of 12-hour shifts doing that, everyone can do it pretty well, especially with the AI assistants, because the AIs learn faster than we do. And so again, they're then writing most of it for us. So remember, it's not just Mob, which is amazing. What I'm talking about here is MobAI. The assistants make it really easy for non-technical people to make massive technical contributions in a very short order of time. I'd say, yeah, 18 minutes.
Great. Thanks.